Hey everybody, how we doing? I wanted to knock out a quick 15-minute video of a live session talking about maximal effort. I've been thinking about this for a while. I was supposed to do this weekend, and of course, life happens. So here we are. I have 15 minutes before I'm going to pick up my kids. So I wanted to knock this out quick. And I wanted to first explain why this even came up. So, like, what is the whole topic? You mean I'm going to die if I don't give maximum effort? What do you mean? And so I was reflecting the other day because I try to learn how to improve every single day, right? So we're always trying to better ourselves. Nobody's perfect. And I realized one big thing. I realized a reoccurring pattern is that I was actually getting very agitated extremely quickly when I was in situations where people just weren't giving 100% effort and weren't being everything that they could be when I know they had potential to do a lot better than they currently were doing it in any given situation. And that was something that really got me fired up, and sometimes to the point to where I was pretty abrasive. I'm kind of abrasive sometimes for those of you that don't know. And I was like, okay, so why is that? Why is that something that bugs me so much? And it kind of got me thinking into the whole theme of today, and that's why maximal effort, especially to me, is so extremely important. By the way, shameless plug. My book right now is on sale on Amazon. You just search that exact title, you'll find it. Very good for these types of conversations, especially when you're talking about getting people to find ways to do what they need to do in order to be successful and in sales. So check it out. So a couple things with this. One, I had a friend, an old coworker of mine, Mike, who put a comment on my LinkedIn when he did a review for me, and he said Brian loves giving and receiving max effort, and I was like, ooh, that's pretty intriguing. Yeah, that's a big deal, but that's a lot deeper than what's on the surface. So I kind of want to go through a scenario fast and really discuss why that's important to me, and also what to be aware of when you're someone like me who gets a little agitated when that doesn't happen. The first thing was, I was like, why is this important to me? One, perception. So I'm going to go through three things really fast in the next 12 minutes. And one is perception and why maximal effort plays such a huge role in perception. Two, we're going to talk about the pay it forward mentality. For those of you that have seen that movie, I've referenced that before in my videos, and why giving 100% is huge for other people in your lives. And because you impact other people, whether you really realize it or not, based on your effort you're giving on any given activity throughout the day, whether it's work, driving home from work, etc., etc. Lastly, and I'll reference this a lot in a lot of my videos, and that's life purpose. So, why is giving maximal effort tied to life purpose? And it's not the end all be all for finding your purpose, but it's definitely a huge factor that plays a big role in that. So, first of all, what is it? What do I mean by perception and opening doors? So, everybody wants to be happy with where they're working, right? First of all, if you're not happy with the job you're in right now, and you're not comfortable with where you want to be at, and you need to find a different path in life, don't stay where you're at. My second thing with that is do the best you can do with where you're currently at. So, a case in point, and I've told this story before, I'm going to truncate it. When I was about to graduate college, I was working as a bartender, and I had these group of people come up to my bar on a Friday night, extremely busy, a ton of people, 2 hour wait, so on and so forth, and managed that group while doing 25 other tasks throughout the night. And at the end of the night, they go, holy cow, how do you manage all these tasks? And I was like, well, I don't know. I just do it because it has to be done. And they go, well, that's awesome. We love your attitude. We love how you interact with people. We want to offer you a job. Long story short, that doubled my salary extremely quickly in the next year. So why I say perception huge and opening doors is huge is because you never know who's watching, right? So when I talk about max effort, you don't know who's watching. So even if you're in a job you hate or you're driving home from work and somebody pissed you off on the road, always act like somebody is watching you. That is extremely important, whether they are or not, because you never know when what you're doing is going to be noticed by someone and give you an opportunity that's really great for you. So that's the first thing. Second thing is it impacts other people. So I've had numerous scenarios in my own life. I'm not going to talk about specific ones because I don't want that to get back to anything. But I've had scenarios and I've watched other people in scenarios where they didn't do the best of their performance that they could possibly do, myself included, right? I'm not obviously outside of that pool. And I realized one common theme, and that was that person wasn't truly happy. They weren't where they wanted to be at in life, and they wanted to find somewhere else to be, but they didn't want to put in the effort to do what they needed to do to be successful in their current role. I'm going to be honest with you. Nobody wants to hire somebody, or nobody wants to work with someone who's not willing to put in the effort when the going gets tough. And then when they finally get in a job they like and actually then try, think about that. So if you're someone that's watching an individual and they're looking to get hired into a role in your company, but they're not giving any effort in their current role, what kind of person does that look like to you? It doesn't look like a good person, I'll tell you that. It says my frame rate's too low. If anybody's on this and they see that, let me know. Interesting. So that's a big deal. Perception is huge. You never know what's going to happen. And then I've seen scenarios happen with my wife and I. I'll give a big one, Ford Motor Company, where we had a case manager when her transmission went out just outside of the warranty range for the mileage. And we had to fight with Ford, and the person that was working our case there could care less. And quite frankly, they didn't help at all with the scenario. And it was a horrible experience for us, and it turned us away from Ford for the rest of our lives, which was truly sad. And so that impacts people, and it impacts your company and your business. So the pay it forward mentality is always give 110% effort, and because you never know who's going to be watching, you never know how that's going to impact you or impact somebody else that you're engaged with or interacting with, and that's a big deal. And a second part of that, if you don't do well with something and you're able to get a hold of that individual, make it right. Don't just let that sit there. Find a way to make it right and improve, because that's going to improve their experience so much, and it's going to give you kudos, and it's going to turn out well for you as well. Lastly, life purpose. So I'm going to pull up my phone for this because I think this is extremely important. I had a couple of quotes here that I want to tie in with this. And the first one, with making sure you're doing things right when nobody's watching, is the quote by Martin Luther King, and I love this quote. This is one of my favorite quotes of all time. If a man is to be called a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. That encompasses everything I'm talking about with that second point of you never know who's watching and how it impacts other people. So do it, because it's going to help you. And then when we get into the third point of finding life purpose, this is a big deal for a lot of people, and it's a big deal for me to try to help people find life purpose. So I'm going to do a quote here, and I have a link in here to psychreg.org that has Viktor Frankl. So I'm actually going to start reading this book by Viktor Frankl. But one of my favorite quotes by him is, those who have a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Those that have a why and a purpose to live can bear almost anyhow. So for those of you that don't know, Viktor Frankl was in the concentration camps over in Nazi Germany when that happened. And I believe it was in Nazi Germany. I have to read the book. And I'm going to read that book because it talks about his story being in the concentration camps and how he actually found life purpose and enlightenment during his duration there, instead of going the opposite path and direction. And going back to that website with psychreg.org, I want to list out a couple of things here that they had on their studies. So there's two common themes. When psychiatrists had clients, they noticed two common themes, and it was among every ecosocionomical, every single gender base. It was even distributed across genders, ages, etc. And they found that there's a couple of examples with this. A survey of 3,489 adults between the ages of 32 and 84 established that a purpose in life was associated with higher scores for memory, executive functioning, and overall cognition. Another study of 189 elderly individuals between the ages of 85 and 103 revealed a significant inverse relationship between the purpose of life and depression. So with the two things that these psychiatrists saw that were in common with all of these people they were seeing was a lack of sense of purpose and depression. So everybody that came in had depression and they had a lack of purpose, which in my eyes, those go hand in hand, right? So you have both of those. And then another study, among a cross-sectional study examined with the relationship of purpose, hope, and life satisfaction among about 800 people, found that having a life purpose was associated with greater life satisfaction and overall well-being, and it allowed people to have a positive mindset, which helped them exercise, work out more. So if you look at the pillars of health and wellness, like the Air Force has 4 pillars, what they talk about on this website is these key things, right? Physical and mental well-being, belonging and recognition, Personally treasured activities, so hobbies and spending time with that, and then spiritual closeness and connectedness, so feeling like you have a greater purpose within the world is a huge deal for people. This is a big thing. So, why is maximal effort tied to life purpose? Well, I think in order to find life purpose, you have to be given the opportunities to take the path that you feel is going to help you fulfill that purpose. But if you're not giving 110%, then you miss out on so many opportunities that people may have given you had they thought your work ethic and your skill sets were higher. Had you done 110% in everything you did prior to that, you may have had opportunities that you don't have now because you didn't do that, have that mindset. And my biggest thing that I love, and people talk to me about this all the time, is the putting your cart away mentality, right? So if you're somebody that's getting out of a grocery store and you have a cart, are you someone that pushes that cart and just leaves it right next to your car? Or are you someone that puts it away back in the stall? Because you don't get paid for putting it back in the stall. And by the way, I'm prefacing this with there are situations where people have to leave their carts next to their car, right? So if you have a disability that doesn't allow you to make that distance walk, or if you're, afraid because there might be somebody following you or something like that. There's scenarios like that. Those aside, are you someone that puts the cart away? Because you're not going to get paid for it. You're not going to get recognized for it. And nobody's probably watching you put that cart away or not. So what do you do when people aren't watching? And that's why I like that cart mentality is, are you somebody that puts the cart away, or are you somebody that's just going to leave it there because it's more convenient for you not to do it? So kind of putting this all back together, maximal effort, I realized that when people weren't giving 110%, they weren't fulfilling their purpose. And a lot of those people were unhappy. And it made me unhappy because I knew the potential behind those people and what they could do. So it's huge on perception, and especially first impressions on, if you don't know somebody and their first impression of you is a horrible one, you're pretty much out of luck, especially with some people like me. My personality, if you give me a horrible first impression as a business or as an individual, it's probably going to be really hard for you to earn my trust back after that. So second thing is the pay it forward mentality. You never know when you're going to impact somebody's life. So act as if everything you do impacts somebody's life, because it truly does. And lastly, if you're somebody that struggles with anxiety or a lack of direction and purpose, all I can say is do 110% where you're at now, but don't limit yourself and don't stay where you're at just because it's comfortable. Do the 110%, figure out what your core values are and what really drives you, and go for it and take the risk and do 100% every step along the way. And life has a way of really working in your favor if you give the 110% all the time, because people notice that, God notices that, and it's just, there's no reason not to. Don't be a dick. All right? So that's what I got today. It was a quick and easy one. Let me know your thoughts. How do you guys try to stay motivated? Because you can't have maximal effort all the time. So put your comments down, what your takeaways were and what your thoughts are. And then lastly, I wanted to give a heads up. I have a lot going on still with my main career focus, but I do want to continue the series with the book. So I know that my wife and I we were co-leading the series on each chapter of this book and how it relates to day-to-day life. I'm going to continue to do that in the podcast sessions. So if you want to follow along on that, let me know. I'll make sure I give you the down low when that's going on. Hope everyone's doing well. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.